Good afternoon, this is Atmospheric Alex here, and today we're going to be talking about a strong tornado outbreak that will likely be occurring across Dixie Alley going into Saturday, but we're also going to talk about the severe risk on Friday and also on Sunday as well. Those are a little less important, but still want to bring that point home. This is a major storm system that I am quite concerned about. Before all this, we have to talk about tonight's severe weather risk. We have a slight risk here, a level 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale across these areas of eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, eastern Texas, and northeastern Louisiana. I'm getting tripped up already for the threat for very large hail this evening. As we take a look at our hail risk here, you can see it here in your hatched. This is going to be a 2+ inch risk for hail. So hail that is 2 inches in diameter or greater. So if you have any cars out there, bring them in your garages. This could be quite a significant hail event going into this evening and into tonight. Now for our future radar, brought to you from our HRRR model. I should say model, not radar, but this is what the radar could look like going into this evening. You can see storms popping off around DFW going in around 5 p.m. this evening, and then a little further north too. These storms will likely start off surface-based in nature and then will get more elevated as they cluster together. We have storms like right down here. This one could produce maybe a bit of a tornado risk. We'll have to wait and see. But you can see these all begin to cluster up to a line as we move past Tyler, Texarkana, Shreveport. We have quite a bow echo here near Shreveport, heading into Pine Bluff, going into Monroe as well, going into 9 to 11 p.m. tonight, and I'll continue on through. Okay, now as we move into Friday, we see a level 3 out of 5 here on our severe weather scale going on here across portions of, I guess, in between the Midwest and the Ohio Valley into your Mid-South here. Your broad enhanced risk for severe weather, for damaging winds and strong tornadoes as well. And as you're going to look at the models in a little bit, this area up here will mostly consist of damaging straight line winds, possibly upwards of 70 to 80 plus miles per hour. So potential derecho could move through those areas into Chicago possibly. Further south is where your greater tornado risk will be, especially down here. I'm about to highlight this in red. We have really got to watch this area here for the potential of definitely some strong tornado activity. Possibly an intense long track tornado as well could form in this area. And further off to the south of this here, we are talking about potentially some semi to fully discrete supercells that could develop later on in the night and definitely pose a strong tornado risk. We've really got to keep our eyes on this. Let's take a look at our NAM 3 kilometer model here. Again, this is what the radar could look like going into Friday evening, and you could see, boom, a very long line of significant damaging straight line winds blasting through Missouri there. This is a little too far west. This is going to adjust over time as we head into 7 p.m. Friday. Man, oh man, you could see just this big old line here of 70 to 80 mile an hour winds that is going to be racing here. You know, look at this, off to the northeast direction where we could see severe thunderstorm warnings all along here, possibly considerable to destructive warnings with those winds. That is going to be a major issue. And then your tornado risk as well. Some of your little indentions here, you could end up seeing some tornadic activity where you get your stronger periods of inflow here. That is where we really got to watch. And some of your semi-discrete supercell development down here. See some of your embedded sups in your line here. That could definitely pose the risk for strong tornadoes much further south. Continuing on through the night, we're switching to our low-res NAM. Just a big ol' hooking bow echo segment here, moving off to the northeast. This is going to bring significant wind, and this will be in the form of possibly a derecho, especially on the northern fringe. That is what we need to monitor. Now for our dew points, we're going to take a look at this here going into Friday. We don't really have much. Into your mid to upper 50s. Your CAPE, your convective available potential energy, or storm energy for short, yes, we do got quite a bit of it, up to 1,500 to 1,700 here across central Iowa. And even a little bit out in front of that too, but you notice this hatch area here, where all your lines are like this. This is convective inhibition. This is going to be a dry, warmer air aloft and will likely suppress thunderstorm activity out ahead of the line if there's any to begin with. Now, for your storm relative helicity, are we going to see a tornado risk? Yes, anything in your gold colors is suitable for tornadoes, and certainly, again, out ahead of this, but you're going to have a lot of forcing along the line too. Your line's going to be moving and bam, your cold front is going to crash into it and is going to force all your updrafts up at a rapid rate. So yeah, tornado risk, even outside the gold areas, are going to be likely. Supercell composite values, if you sandwich it all together into one, here's what you get. Seeing some yellows, isolated oranges here, so yes, you definitely will see severe weather, possibly significant winds at that. Then further south, we'll get into that in a minute. Goodness gracious, looks a lot more serious. Alrighty, and now for our sounding here. What on earth is a sounding, Alex? Well, this is basically taken from a point of all of the atmospheric and environmental conditions in one area. And there's a lot to read here. I'm going to go through the basic. So first things first on this sounding, we're going to look at our veering with height. You can see your winds from the surface come out of the southeast, and then as we go into our mid to upper levels, from the southwest. So this is a major check mark here if you want tornadic activity. Next up, we have our green line here, red line here. This green line is your dew points, your red line is your temperature. You can see a major temperature and dew point spread here, so it's going to be very difficult to get your tornado risk along that line. You're probably only going to see some weak tornadoes, so not really too sufficient, not a good ingredient here for this severe weather risk. Then over here we have our helicity, and it's a little bit low, 168 meters square per second squared. You would want over 200 for sufficient tornado risk, but due to forcing, it might work. We'll just have to see. Your storm energy, your CAPE values, upwards of 1,800. This is very sufficient for severe weather in this environment. Your elapse rates here, upwards of upper 7s, lower 8s, very sufficient here. So basically tell you how long it takes for a storm to become tornadic in an environment. So values at high, going to be very instantaneous there. And as we go over, look at our lower level shear, that actually looks pretty good, but your helicity is lacking a bit. And then going over to your hodograph here, basically your winds with height plotted on a squiggly line here, if you will. Very nice looking curvature here to your hodograph. I'd give that a solid check mark, an 8 here of hodograph for sure. Alright, well, I hope your brains aren't melting yet, because we now have our southern mode to go over. Start with your dew points. Same exact thing, your dew points are a little higher, so that is bad news if you don't want severe weather. And here you go. Going on through with your CAPE values here. Definitely seeing decent values here, upwards of 1,000, and this area here is going to be very primed. We'll look at that in just a minute here. Your storm relative helicity values, looking pretty good right here. I have very good, actually. Look at in your grays and whites, very significant, very suitable for strong, potentially intense tornadoes. Could see a long tracker through this area too, depending on a lot of different things here. Supercell composite values, very high. Look at that, going straight into your pink colors here. Very consolidated, but yet very rich environment for tornadoes here. And then your significant tornado parameter, same thing. Heading straight into, if you look closely, some of your cyan colors in here. Your light blues maxing out the field here. This is, whew. If a storm takes advantage of this environment, it is game on. Southern to southeastern Missouri, you need to watch out. Going into northeastern Arkansas, very prime environment up ahead. Well, how prime is it exactly? Well, you could see winds from the southeast to southwest, very good veering, very high helicity, 876. big check mark for that. Going on with your storm energy here, a little bit low, but it's manageable in this environment, I'd say. Lapse rates, they're okay. They're kind of in your low 6s. You see some of your mid-levels improving a bit into your mid-7s, but needs some work done there. Yeah, your shear, just automatic check mark there. As we go over to your hodograph up here, man, it goes off the screen. S-tier hodograph here, very favorable sounding for strong to intense tornadoes, going into around 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Friday evening. Oh, and one more thing, temperature dew point spreads, beautiful. Again, be very careful in this area. I think this will be a definite hot zone for strong tornado activity. Well, that was only Friday. Let's move into Saturday here. And Saturday's a big day, right? Let's look at our European model. So we're looking overnight, Friday night. You see some of your semi-discrete supercells trying to fire. There's going to be limited shear and helicity at first, so you might have some trouble getting those going. As we continue throughout the night, whoa, you can definitely see some kind of faint hooking signatures here on a low-res model. So supercells, I'm telling you, any supercells that form to the south is another hot zone for potentially strong tornadoes. We've really got to watch this down there. So continue going through, potentially a long track supercell there. We don't really know how good the conditions will be here, but let's go ahead into Saturday here. And it looks like a mess on the European model. You still got a ton of storms firing up. Even a bit of a supercell here. That's crazy to see on a low-res model. And as we continue through in a Saturday evening, here's where things get a little more real. Supercells begin to space themselves apart, and that is where we are talking about a strong to intense, look at this, wow. Yeah, strong to intense long track tornado threat here on your European model, even with limited storm energy with this environment. Overnight hours, same thing, and it's a big risk, I'll tell you. Your NAM model here, same song and dance, got quite a bit of convection early on, and it's very hard to tell whether this will be using the environment or wasting the environment here. These storms will either mature into discrete supercells and produce strong tornadoes starting late Saturday morning, or they're going to clog up the rest of your environment and cause the storms later on to suffer. Have some uncertainties here. What isn't uncertain is your potential semi-discrete, fully discrete supercells that could form ahead of the line here going into Saturday evening. We really need to watch it as high helicity values are going to develop. What about your storm energy? Firstly, as we go into Friday night, storm energy quickly increases here. These supercells down here, I'm telling you, Friday night, you really got to watch it. Friday night in this area is going to sneak up on you. It's going to be a sleeper event, so please stay weather aware, because if a supercell forms, it will track for a while on that environment. I would also like to note that these same supercells could also cause power outages, because you got to keep in mind these could be packed with strong to damaging winds, some hail, and even that tornado risk as well. So power could be out for some people on Saturday who really need those warnings. So I highly recommend that you turn your weather radios on high, and please turn your emergency alerts on your phone, because you do not want to miss out on any vital information on Saturday's tornado outbreak. Okay, storm energy retreats back to the Gulf, then comes back up into Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, 2,000 to 3,000 storm energy, a very large area, wide open warm sector. It's just, this is what we really need to monitor going into Saturday evening. That look there is really something. Seeing that much storm energy in a highly upper echelon environment. Going into Saturday night, some of your CAPE values really retract off to the north and shift back south again, where you have less convection and you're strong to, I'll even say it, violent tornadoes are definitely going to be a possibility in this environment. How is your lower level shear? Why do you have to ask? It's going to be amazing. Starting on going into Saturday afternoon, already over 50 knots across a large area. Yeah, so it's just going to start right off the bat. Probably mid to late Saturday morning, actually. It's going to be an early one. Going into Saturday evening, up to around 70 knots of shear really begins to develop and move through. Into the evening, this is a very tight low-pressure system here, kind of a meso-low, if you will. Up to around 70, possibly 80 knots of shear. This shows around 100, but believe me, it's not going to be that high. But this will support strong to violent long-track tornadoes. If we can get our storm energy this far north, if it can sustain up there as well, that is a very, very sizable question mark up here that we really, really do need to figure out. But if not, still 70 knots in your southern area. Unbelievable stuff. Just a tinderbox waiting to explode. Your helicity values here. Friday night, gosh, again, if we have any storms over here, it's game on. Talking about 600 to 700 helicity, insane. Now, as we go into Saturday afternoon, seeing your gold colors here, your tornado risk will start early, like I said, potentially even a strong tornado risk starting around noon on Saturday. Boy, does that explode. Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, already 600 across a very big area. So a lot of helicity aloft, a lot of tilting, turning with height, and I'm telling you, any discrete supercell here, boy, oh boy, it only takes one, and we have learned that in multiple scenarios in Dixie Alley. There's many different supercells that have done this, and I'm not saying it'll happen this time, but anything out in front of the line, super duper favorable environment. There is no doubt about that. If you smash all your parameters together, you get your supercell composite, and bright and early, look at this, early Saturday afternoon, already talking about hot pinks down here. Going into Saturday afternoon and evening, you have a little splotch of purple right here, and the rest of it is just pink across the board. This is just unbelievable stuff. This was such an uptrend. The last time I saw you, I was thinking maybe a couple strong tornadoes. Now, we could see maybe even a violent tornado out of this environment, a long tracker for sure with this. You know, this is a very concerning setup that I am deeply concerned about, and I imagine everyone else in this area is concerned about as well. Concerning indeed, I'll tell you that much. Your STP values, yeah, not much I have to say there. It's just going to be so elevated of a space. Now for your soundings here. Again, just look at where I draw and trust my generalized, you know, observations here, because I've been doing this for a while and I've been watching a lot of other people who have as well. Starting around early Saturday afternoon here, 18Z, that's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Really 1 if you're in Central. Starting with your veering with height, that's pretty good from your south to southwest. I'd like to see this more of a southeast direction here. Still, given that a check mark, that's still very good. Temperature dew point spread, no words. Absolutely pristine. Here's something too. You have what is called an EML that develops around your 700 millibar level. This helps inject a little bit of dry air into your mid-levels to stop over convection and wasteful convection across your warm sector. Your cells will become a lot more discrete in nature if we see this. And bam, that is a very stout EML. That is a very concerning factor that, you know, a lot of weather enthusiasts want to disappear off the models, because this is going to be a make or break, and this looks like a serious make for this event. Going with your helicity, yeah, that's pretty decent. You could see a strong tornado out of that. Cape, just absolutely absurd. Going into your lower level and mid-level lapse rates for Dixie Alley, that is amazing. I'd like to see that closer to a 7 at your low levels, but this is still very good. Shear, also very good as well, around 350. And then your hodograph, probably an A-tier hodograph, maybe even S-tier, how it just curves off so perfectly. Goodness me, this is quite the parameter space. Now in a Saturday, late afternoon, early evening here, same thing, veering a little bit better this time, and stronger shear aloft. Absolutely insane kinematics here. Helicity, really amazing as well. Temperature dew point spread, also incredible. Look at your EML, still super present, and this is going much later on. If you get any discrete cells, it is on. Getting down here to your storm energy, pristine. Lapse rates, incredible down here. Shear, also just, oh my goodness. I just can go on. And then your S-tier hodograph over here. incredibly, almost perfect veering aloft, very streamwise in nature. Moving into 0Z, this is 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and this is just, you know, this is insane, right? You can see your veering, absolutely the same here. I mean, just check mark, right? Temperature dew point spread, check mark. A little oversaturated at your low levels, and your EML is gone, so yeah, you're going to have overconvection. Helicity, incredible. Storm energy, still really good this late. Lapse rates, absolutely not. This is when stuff becomes tricky, and your tornado risk is going to begin to die off rapidly, I believe. Shear, absolutely incredible here. And going into your S tier, S plus tier hodograph, wow, yes, that is a ton of veering. And just to show you where this was taken here, this is in northern Alabama, right up here right next to your powerful, I should say, meso low pressure system. So tiny, yet so intense right in that area. And we can't forget about areas down here. Probably roughly the same sounding down there as well. Now, extremely quickly and briskly, here's your fire weather risk. Talking about an extreme risk going on today. Don't burn anything. I don't even live in this area. I just had a fire right down the street. It was pretty scary. Saw some smoke plumes probably up to 10,000 feet in height. Yeah, not what you want to be seeing on a breezy day, but across here in southern Texas, and even in this red area here, don't burn anything, okay? The law will get you if you do. Then same exact thing for tomorrow, a little less significant, and then I gotta go over these days fast. 70% are critical risks. Friday, gonna be a major firestorm out there. Talking about an extreme risk, which will probably be issued in this area here. Don't burn anything, like I said. Now, your wind gusts are between 60 to 65 miles an hour across a large portion here of Oklahoma and Texas. This is actually uptrended, but even closing in on 70 miles an hour there, that's a very serious concern. Hold on to your hats. You don't want to be losing them out there. As we move on through, going into your Ohio Valley and Midwest, and then, of course, let's center on into East Tennessee here. Significant high-end mountain wave windstorm possible, not likely anymore. Models have backed down slightly. Still talking about up to 80 mile an hour, almost 90 mile an hour winds in the mountains, maybe up to 40, maybe pushing 50 in your intermediate foothills and maybe Southern Valley locations. We'll have to see how much more bullish this model ends up getting, though. With that said, there was a lot to go over, and I couldn't help it at all. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you absolutely enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community below, and share us with friends and family on social media. Especially if they live in here, they need to know about this. We'll likely see a day 3 moderate risk, possibly even something greater by day 1. Again, this is a highly volatile parameter space, as the National Weather Service pointed out. And be sure to leave a comment in the section below letting me know how well I've done this video. If you think there's too many stickers on this thumbnail, because if you don't really like the thumbnail, please let me know and I will change it, for the next video. That being said, stay safe, everyone. Please monitor the severe weather in this area, especially down here, as we could be talking about something very serious going into Friday and Saturday. And just be mindful of your potential blizzard up here in the north as well. Have a wonderful day and night, everyone, and stay safe and stay extremely weather aware.